You know, I do a fair amount of contract work for Green Builder Media, but I'm not an actual employee. So I'm not patting myself on the back when I say that the people over at Green Builder Media are pretty smart, because I'm sure that they knew that July was National Anti-Boredom Month. And if you haven't noticed, their content battles boredom head on. And that's what we're doing with today's webinar. We're going to be talking about actual, real life, zero energy ready homes that are being built for around $200,000. That's right, I said $200,000. Now, who is doing this incredible work? Why, that would be our guest, Rob Howard of Howard Building Science. He is a licensed general contractor providing sustainable development and net zero energy home construction in the high country and foothills of Western North Carolina, somewhere. But Rob has over 20 years of experience in the construction industry. He built the first net zero energy home in North Carolina in partnership with the Appalachian Energy Center in 2005. He also built his first DOE zero energy ready home in North Carolina in 2015, but you might also know him from his roles with Habitat for Humanity International and Mitsubishi Electric. Rob has a master's degree in sustainable technology and building science from Appalachian State University, where he now serves as a lecturer. You know, our sponsors are anything but boring. The first is Schneider Electric, who is driving the digital transformation of modern homes with smart and sustainable energy solutions for ultimate comfort and energy efficiency. Their connected home ecosystem of smart energy management solutions provides digital control of energy use throughout a home, from the grid via their smart electrical panels to their connected wiring devices. This grid-to-plug solution makes it significantly easier to create smart solar power and backup power-ready homes, both now and in the future. Next is Panasonic Healthy Indoor Living Solutions. You know, they're helping builders across the country differentiate themselves with powerful, code-compliant, and cost-effective indoor air quality solutions that provide a safer environment for homebuyers. And Jinko Solar is a leading PV module manufacturer and energy storage system integrator. The company has deployed more than 100 gigawatts of their Eagle modules in 160 countries globally, including more than 17 gigawatts right here in the United States. Eagle Storage brings together the best energy storage technology for turnkey hardware and energy storage services. Eagle is a trusted choice for U.S. solar and storage projects. And our newest sponsor is LG HVAC. As a leading proponent of the electrification movement, LG is proud to pave the way with arguably the broadest portfolio of home electrification products, from air-to-air and air-to-water heat pumps for HVAC, water heaters, clothes dryers, and washer-dryer combos, all the way to advanced energy storage systems, EV chargers, and super-efficient appliances, including the industry's first Energy Star certified induction cooktop. LG's innovation and technology will help us promote decarbonization and collectively create a better life for all. Now, during the course of today's presentation, you can submit questions for Rob. Simply use the questions box inside the GoToWebinar control panel. I'm going to review those questions and pose those to Rob after his presentation. Now, here to say a few words about Rob is none other than the creator of Housing 2.0, Mr. Sam Rashkin.
Hey, thank you, Mike. It's been too long since we've been working together on one of these webinars, but I really wanted to introduce our speaker today. As many of you know who attend the Housing 2.0 workshops, the average median price to median income ratio nationally is 5.6. I want everyone to absorb that. 5.6 is a median price to median household income ratio nationally. What you need to know is a ratio of 5 is considered a severe economic burden, and you need to be down to about 3.0 so people can live a less financially stressed life. So it's with great pride and amount of being impressed that I'm so happy Rob is coming to today's thought leader session, because we need Housing 2.0 builders who are able to demonstrate that it's not just for high-end homes. In fact, we can build workforce housing that provides a tremendous user experience at a price people can't afford. It's not a myth, it's reality. And Rob Howard's one of the unique and very rare builders in the country who's able to do this. His work is so important, and he's buried way in the mountains of North Carolina. So we dug him out. We're going to bring him here today, and I hope you all pay attention. This is really epic kind of achievements that we need in the industry. So Rob, I couldn't be more happy you're here today and so grateful you're going to share with us your wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam. I really appreciate this opportunity. So we ready to dive in here?
We're good to go.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. I hate that we can't be together in person. That is definitely my preference when I'm giving a presentation, but we'll make the best of it here and utilize technology for all it's worth. So I just want to reiterate what Mike was saying about, please put your questions or comments in the chat, and we'll definitely try to get to those before the end of our time today. See if I can get this thing to advance. So again, my name is Rob Howard. I'm a builder developer based in Granite Falls, North Carolina, in the western part of the state. My company is called Howard Building Science. And as Sam mentioned, I'm also a building science lecturer at Appalachian State University. I don't want to correct Mike, but there's one thing we got to clear up. It's not Appalachian, it's Appalachian.
My apologies, Rob.
That's quite all right. It happens all the time. And as he mentioned, you may remember me from previous positions with Mitsubishi Electric on the performance construction team. I spent 15 years with Habitat for Humanity, 10 years as a director of construction for my local affiliate in Hickory, North Carolina. It's called Catawba Valley Habitat for Humanity. And then 5 years as a sustainable building specialist with Habitat for Humanity International. That picture there is of the first zero energy home that was built in North Carolina by Habitat for Humanity of Catawba Valley in Hickory back in 2005. I'll give you a little bit more detail on that project in a few slides, but that was also obviously almost 20 years ago. So my hair was much darker at that time. Just want to tell you a little bit more about my work with Appalachian State. I'm part of the Department of Sustainable Technology and the Built Environment. Started teaching as an adjunct for App State back in 2010. After teaching remotely at their what was then the Hickory campus, they talked me into driving up to Boone to teach on the main campus. And once I got used to the drive, I decided I was going to apply for grad school and see if I could get in. So somehow I managed to be admitted and started that program in 2015. But I like to say I did a 4-year paid internship at Mitsubishi right in the middle of my grad program. So it took me a few years to finish it, 6 to be exact. So finally finished that program in 21, and they offered me a full-time lecturer position. I guess the other thing I want to point out about my experience at App State is that they've been a part of the DOE Race to Zero and what became the Solar Decathlon Design Challenge for many years. And I certainly benefited from that as both a student and as a faculty member. In fact, we participated just this past year. So kudos to Sam and DOE for continuing to challenge our future leaders in this industry to think about how to design for a solar future. I have given similar workshops to this one over the years for the Appalachian Energy Center up in Boone. So we have traditionally called this the Affordable Zero Energy Ready Homes Workshop. And typically we'll do a half day in the classroom, and then we'll get folks out onto a construction site and actually walk through one of these homes, either under construction or one that's been recently completed. So unfortunately, we will not have that opportunity today, but if you're ever in Western North Carolina and you want to see one of these in person, I'd be more than happy to give you a tour. Again, just to kind of reiterate my experience with Habitat for Humanity in Hickory with the Catawba Valley affiliate. A couple of our, I guess, claims to fame, as I think about it, we built the first, or we were building Energy Star homes through Advanced Energy System Vision program since 2001. So we've been at this a long time. I still say we because I now serve on their board of directors. But I guess, maybe the thing that really changed my career is that I had an opportunity to build the first net zero energy home in North Carolina in 2005. And that was a partnership with the Appalachian Energy Center and the State Energy Office in Raleigh. So it was a grant funded project. But, I'll give you a little bit more detail on, what brought that to a net zero energy home in a minute. And then 10 years later, we built the first DOE zero energy ready homes in North Carolina in 2015. So this is that zero energy home that I keep mentioning in Hickory. It was, again, a partnership with the Appalachian Energy Center and really started at its heart as a passive solar design. So you can see that bank of windows there that faces due south. And it might look like it's on a crawl space, but it's actually on a raised stem wall slab. So we insulated that slab with R10 rigid insulation. This was the first house I ever built with 2x6 exterior walls. We'd always built with 2x4 prior to that. So we were able to do R25 exterior walls with advanced framing techniques. And back in those days, I think R30 was probably, code for attic insulation, and we took this one up to R49. So that seemed like a lot at the time, not so much anymore. This is actually the only time I've ever built a house that had a geothermal heat pump. And that was one of the pieces of equipment that we were able to get donated for this project by Water Furnace. And as you can see on the roof there, it's got both solar PV as well as a solar thermal water heating system. So you don't often see the storage tank on the roof, but again, it was donated, so we were more than happy to install it. And all those systems are still working today, including the 4.8 kW PV array on the roof, which did in fact perform as a net zero energy home, at least for the years that we were monitoring the energy bills. So really proud of that home, and certainly changed the way I thought about construction. And while we did not continue to build net zero on every house, we certainly took a lot of these techniques forward to the other houses that we built. So I want to just quickly tell you a story about one of the developments that we did in Hickory, which is called Northstone. It is a mixed income community. It's roughly 20 houses, and about half of those are Habitat homes and half of those are market rate homes. So in essence, Habitat was the developer on the entire project and sold the market rate homes to raise money to help build the Habitat homes. We worked with an architect based in Raleigh called Tightlines Designs. As you see here, they're a socially responsible architecture firm whose mission is to provide eco-friendly, quality, affordable housing design solutions. These are just some examples of homes that they've designed. These are not actually the homes that we were building, but we did actually end up building some of these same plans. And Tightlines does both single family as well as multifamily, like LIHTC affordable housing projects. So, we were essentially trying to put our spin on the Zero Energy Ready Home program. And, so we took the features and benefits that, Sam and DOE probably came up with and added to that. So you can see these homes are certainly more comfortable with healthy indoor air quality, low utility bills, both electricity and water, with reduced environmental impact, safety, and durability. We really wanted to stress universal design for aging in place. And then Habitat has always had a fairly robust homeowner education program, but we wanted to add to that to help our homeowners understand the benefits of the Zero Energy Ready Home program and how to keep their home efficient and healthy over time. And one of the ways that we did that was through monitoring and maintaining their homes through service agreements with the HVAC contractor, which we basically included in the cost of the house. And as you guys are probably aware, if you're participating in Zero Energy Ready Home, then you're also certifying to Energy Star and EPA Indoor Air Plus. Those are basically prerequisites for Zero Energy Ready. So these are the certificates that we were awarded when we certified our homes in that Northstone community. I don't know if you can make it out, but this home actually achieved a HERS rating of 44, which, you know, today might seem sort of ho-hum, but back in those days, we were used to getting HERS ratings in the mid 60s. So to be able to get one in the mid 40s for us was a major accomplishment. And I think I mentioned that we were also participating in the System Vision program with Advanced Energy. And I guess one of the most unique factors of that program is they offer this 2-year comfort and energy use guarantee. So they have a formula that calculates just the heating and cooling portion of the bill. And this home, was guaranteed to have basically a $30 a month utility bill, or at least the heating and cooling portion of that utility bill was around $30. So, if you figure that's, somewhere between 30 to 50% of your energy bill, then your total should be somewhere in the $60 to $90 range, which I don't know about any of you guys, but mine is slightly more than that. So pretty darn good. And, I guess one of my favorite things about what DOE has done with this Zero Energy Ready Home program is the Housing Innovation Awards. And the Hickory or Catawba Valley affiliate has been fortunate enough to win a few of these over the years. This is the first Housing Innovation Award that we won back in 2016 was for this Julia plan from Tightlines, which is, this one is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,340 square feet. This is the one that came in at a HERS 44. And you can see the projected monthly energy bill, annual savings, and how that would impact, a homeowner's financial, livelihood over a 30-year period. So pretty impressive. A year later, we won another Housing Innovation Award for this. I think this is the Hawkins plan from Tightlines, which is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,232 square feet, came in at a HERS 46. 2018, we won another Housing Innovation Award for this. This is a 3-bedroom version of the Julia plan. That's 1,240 square feet, came in at a HERS 49. And then in 2019, we won another Housing Innovation Award for this. I can't recall the name of this plan off the top of my head, but it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,160 square feet. And this one came in at a HERS 40. And until recently, this was the lowest HERS score I'd ever received on a home that I was a part of. So switching gears a little bit here, during my time at Mitsubishi in 2018, I attended an innovative housing summit that was hosted by the Microlife Institute in Atlanta. They originally started out as Tiny House Atlanta, and they hosted a Tiny House Festival every year in Decatur, Georgia. And they later rebranded themselves as the Microlife Institute. So Will Johnson and his team have done an amazing job of advocating for different housing types within the Atlanta Metro. And they've also done an amazing job of educating the industry, not just in Georgia, but really nationwide, about the need for more diverse types of housing. And this was the first year that they had hosted this event, and they had Ross Chapin, an architect from the Pacific Northwest, come in and give the keynote address, which was entitled "Stronger Together: Innovative Housing Opportunities for Everyone in Our Communities." And I was really moved by this, what Chapin's message was. And he also wrote a book called Pocket Neighborhoods. So he had a book signing after the event, and I was able to get a signed copy of his book and meet him. And I ended up reading this for a project in grad school, and was really inspired, to build one of these pocket neighborhoods myself. So Chapin describes pocket neighborhoods as clustered groups of houses that are gathered around an open courtyard where neighbors have a sense of stewardship in the common ground they share. One of the unique features in a Chapin style pocket neighborhood is that they have large front porches that serve as outdoor living rooms facing a shared green space. And then traditionally we'll have a property owners association that manages the landscaping and maintenance to ensure the long-term beauty of the neighborhood and the overall durability of the homes. I also want to make sure that everybody's clear on this term that gets thrown around a lot now, missing middle housing. This was actually coined by another architect named Daniel Paralek. And I think a lot of times people confuse this with middle income or middle class housing. But in fact, missing middle housing is a range of house scale buildings with multiple units that are compatible in scale and form with detached single family homes, but located in a walkable neighborhood. So this is kind of the classic picture from Paralek's company, Opticos, that tries to communicate what they mean by missing middle housing. So over on the left, you've got detached single family homes, and then all the way to the right, you've got larger apartment buildings. But what we've really lost, largely due to zoning restrictions in a lot of municipalities, are these other housing types like duplexes, fourplexes, cottage court neighborhoods, or another way of describing pocket neighborhoods, townhomes, and the like. So that's essentially what Paralek's company is trying to advocate for, is a greater diversity of housing choice. So missing middle housing types, as I just said, these are just examples of other types of housing that certainly help control the cost of housing in communities. These house scale buildings fit seamlessly into existing residential neighborhoods, support walkability, locally serving retail, as well as public transportation options. And they provide solutions along a spectrum of affordability to address the mismatch between the available U.S. housing stock and shifting demographics combined with the growing demand for walkability. In 2019, I attended another Microlife Institute event, which was a workshop for developers who wanted to actually do their own pocket neighborhood. And they actually created this workbook based on Chapin's Pocket Neighborhoods book, and including things like design patterns and scaling, zoning, permitting, the whole development process, and even got into ways to help finance these projects. So in 2021, I decided I was going to build one of these pocket neighborhoods in my hometown of Granite Falls, North Carolina, and ended up calling it Duke Street Cottages. And our goal with this community is to try to prove that sustainable is attainable. We want these homes to be affordable to buy and to own with near zero maintenance and utility bills. We want to provide sustainable community living with shared green space and sidewalks that connect to downtown. And we also want to provide healthy indoor air quality with high efficiency filtration and ventilation. And I guess the tagline here is, we're building towards a sustainable future where everyone has a safe, healthy place to call home. So here's the architect's rendering of the site plan. It has 11 single-family detached cottage homes that surround a shared green space in the center. We have also carved out some space on the site plan for a community garden, as well as some outdoor storage, because these homes do not have garages. So I feel like the two things that we're really struggling with as a community are bikes and boats. We need places to store that kind of stuff. And, just to point out some of the limitations that I feel like that exists for, trying to get projects like this approved. Certainly zoning restrictions. There's no zoning in Granite Falls, North Carolina for pocket neighborhoods, or cottage courts, or sometimes you'll hear it called a bungalow court. But I was able to submit this as a plan unit development, or what you'll often hear described as a PUD, and get it approved as a conditional use in the existing zoning. So rather than having to go to a public hearing with town council, it actually went to the Board of Adjustment, and which is, for those of you in the planning world or who are dealing with the planning world, they call it a quasi-judicial process. So the Board of Adjustment is basically just, almost acting like a court or a jury who's listening to the facts that are presented in the case, and then they make a determination as to whether or not this project meets the requirements. So to be able to build 11 houses on 1.25 acres near downtown Granite Falls is basically unheard of. So and we are roughly 70–80% complete. 8 of the 11 homes are already closed and occupied, and we have the last 3 under construction now. So hoping to finish construction on this development by probably fall, and definitely be completed by the end of the year. Another limitation that we faced here was we're in the critical watershed for the Catawba River Basin. So we can only develop 36% of the overall property as impervious area. So of course that's rooftops and any pavement that you do, whether it's concrete or asphalt. So we will have a one-way asphalt alley all the way around the outside of the development. And of course, all 11 houses with that impervious roof space, but the rest of the parking area will be gravel. And then, obviously we're trying to have as much green space on the site as we can. One of our goals is to, prove that while these homes don't have solar panels when they're originally built, we had our HERS rater, Southern Energy Management, which is based in Raleigh, essentially do an analysis of our available roof space to determine how many solar panels could we get on this site that were with the amount of south-facing roof space we had available. And they came up with somewhere around 212 solar panels for roughly 70 kW of renewable energy. So we definitely feel confident that we could get this to a net zero energy community in the event, that we're able to figure out how to afford to put this many solar panels on site. In addition to PV, we're also interested in the possibility of adding battery storage at some point. And then all of the homes are pre-wired for the installation of an electric vehicle charging station. So Duke Street Cottages is definitely an all-electric community. There's no gas service to the site, and we are using as much heat pump technology as possible. So these are heated and cooled with mini splits. They have heat pump water heaters. They have heat pump dryers, as well as induction ranges. And just to give you an idea of what these homes are like, there's really 2 basic plans. This Howard 2-bedroom is 800 square feet, give or take, 24 feet wide by 34 feet deep, with a little inset porch on the back, and then a covered front porch on the front. Here's a couple of as-built shots of the first house that we built. Everybody loves this kind of barn red color on this one. And you can see from the interior shot there, just barely make it out up there in the right corner, the mini split on the wall. And then I actually kept the first Franklin 3-bedroom for my family. So we actually live in one of these homes. This is a 1,400 square foot over on on 2 floors. So the overall footprint is roughly the same. This one's 24 feet wide by 30 feet deep, again with an inset back porch and covered front porch. All these have basically the same shed style covered porch on the front. A couple of as-built shots of that one. Very similar setup. And again, I don't know why, but somehow the mini split just barely peeks at you there in the top right corner of these pictures. A couple of shots of the bathrooms in these as well. And just kind of want to walk you through the construction of these homes. So again, we've already finished 8 of these, and I've got the 9th that's probably 75% complete, all built with structural insulated panels, SIPs, The specific brand is Eco Panels. They're made in a factory in Mocksville, North Carolina, about an hour east of here. And Eco Panels, I guess, is unique in a couple of ways. You're probably familiar with traditional SIPs that have OSB sheathing on both interior and exterior skins, and then typically we'll have EPS foam in the middle. Eco Panels actually uses closed cell spray foam in the core of these panels. So you end up with a higher R value per inch, and they're extremely rigid panels. So we feel like contribute to not only a tighter building envelope, but also just a more resilient home by the time we finish it. You can see our wall panels are their 4.5 inch thick version that is, 2 skins of 1/2 inch OSB with 3.5 inches of closed cell spray foam in the core. So they're rating those at R26. The first 5 houses, we were using their 6.5 inch roof panels that are rated at R40. In phase 2, we actually switched to their 8.25 inch roof panels that are rated at R52. And the reason we did that is because I learned from their designer that those can actually free span up to 16 feet. So we basically got rid of our roof trusses and just went to a center ridge beamed and with a couple of stud packs to support it. And then ended up with this nice vaulted ceiling in the living area. And we framed essentially like a storage loft over the bedrooms and bathroom. I guess the other thing to point out here is that Eco Panels offers Huber zip sheathing as an upgrade on the exterior skin. So we are using the Huber zip sheathing there and the entire zip system to weatherize these homes, and of course they're water and air barrier. There's just a couple of examples of the zip system as well as the Advantech subfloor that we're using on these homes. Probably comes as no great surprise that we're using Mitsubishi mini splits, and most of the homes have at least one ductless mini split. The 2-story houses actually have a ducted mini split in the attic that serves the bedrooms and bathrooms on that second floor. Picture of some guy named Reisinger showing you what one of those looks like. That's not one of my houses, but if you haven't seen a ducted mini split, that's what it looks like. And we partnered with Broan on the ventilation systems for these houses. We're actually using their Overture indoor air quality system, which includes these basically room monitors that are measuring pollutants throughout the home, and they can actually boost the ventilation system, which in our case is an ERV, to try to improve the indoor air quality, and then once the sensor's clear, it'll return it to its normal speed. So the sensors are monitoring total VOCs, temperature, relative humidity, CO2, and PM 2.5. So, and I think, for a very reasonable cost, we're getting, a version of smart ventilation in these homes, which I'm really excited about. And then, we're also using their kitchen range hoods and bathroom exhaust fans. And, again, a couple of examples of certifications that we've received on these homes. I guess another thing I'm really proud of is that last year, the 2-story Franklin plan received a Housing Innovation Special Honor. And you can see came in at a HERS 38, which is to date the lowest HERS score I've gotten on one of these houses. And of course, all these are without PV. And then literally just found out a few days ago that the Howard 2-bedroom was awarded a Housing Innovation Award for 2024. So my only regret here is that when I get to the EBA Summit in October, Sam won't be handing me the award. It'll probably be some tall, lanky guy with a guitar, if I had to guess. But we'll make do. So you know, here's another, you know, sort of hokey attempt at marketing for me, but, you know, I do believe that everyone deserves to live in the shade. So we, you know, came up with this acronym of sustainable, healthy, affordable, durable, and efficient homes. I guess, you know, just in the way of updates, I was recently selected to be in Module's mission-driven developer program. Module is a modular architect consulting firm, I guess, based in Pittsburgh. And they just recently opened their own factory in Pittsburgh that they call the Last Mile Lab. But they got some funding from, I believe it was Wells Fargo, to do this mission-driven developer program to try to help developers who are doing workforce or affordable housing to incorporate off-site construction technology into their process. So we continue to, you know, strive to find ways to do more and more construction off-site, both to expedite construction, control costs, and, you know, I like the fact that we're doing more and more in a controlled environment and limiting the exposure of our building materials to the elements. And you can see Module has, you know, kind of a similar tagline that everyone deserves to live in a well-designed space that they're proud to call home. And this is actually my last one. So just to give you a snapshot of what's coming next for us, when we finish the Duke Street Cottages project, we're going to be moving over to Hickory to do this another infill community or pocket neighborhood that we're calling Hickory Grove. This one is just under an acre that's zoned for 20 units an acre. And we're probably looking at townhomes on this property, but we're definitely going to be building those to zero energy ready. And our goal is actually to get all the way to net zero energy on these if we're able to figure out the finances on that. Well, I think I'm going to take a breath. Mike, do we have any questions or comments we need to address?
We have both, actually, so I'm glad you asked. And also for those who are joining us, in case you didn't see my message that went into the chat box, if you have any questions for Rob, please go ahead and send those in. I want to start actually with, because here's the thing that's interesting. For those who don't know, Rob is an incredibly well-respected expert in the industry, and was even invited to give congressional testimony earlier this year. But not everybody's as smart as Rob. Not everybody is as informed or is as at that expert level as Rob. So Rob, if you could give us a little bit of context on a couple of things. So first and foremost, for our audience, can you kind of explain the difference between net zero and zero energy ready?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just this is kind of a high level, I guess, but I mean, zero energy ready is essentially a home that is, I like to say, roughed in for a future solar installation. So we're trying to build the lowest load home we possibly can. And when I say load, I mean both the HVAC load and the electrical load, so that, you know, we can easily fit enough solar panels on the roof of that house to achieve net zero energy, which, you know, if we're able to do that, then we would say a net zero energy home is one that can produce as much energy as it consumes over the course of, you know, a year.
Okay. Now, here's another kind of building block question for these kind of presentations and discussions. Can you kind of give us just a general understanding of what the HERS scale is, but also how PV is incorporated into that?
Yeah, so, you know, the HERS scale has been around for, gosh, I don't know, 20, 30 years anyway. But I mean, when it was originally developed, I think, you know, the 100 on that scale was somewhere around 2006 International Energy Conservation Code, let's say. And of course, you know, today, depending on what state you're in, you're probably anywhere from, you know, 2009 to 2021 energy code. So, a home that's built to code today is, arguably probably somewhere in the 70s or 80s, on the HERS scale. It's no longer 100, but the 0 on that scale is intended to, be a net zero energy home. So the lower the score, the better. And, again, if you're just thinking about getting a HERS score that allows you to meet the current energy code, then you're probably going to be, let's say somewhere in the 70 range. And, as you saw in the slides, we're currently getting our homes into the, low 40s on a pretty regular clip, by really just focusing on a really robust building envelope and obviously the mechanical systems. But I think one of my favorite requirements of the Zero Energy Ready Home program is that we have to keep all the mechanicals inside, we say conditioned space, but within the thermal and air boundary of the house. So, in some cases, I'll put it in a closed crawl space that has the insulation on the foundation wall. If we're doing a sealed attic, which in our case, we have a SIP roof, so obviously the entire attic space is inside, the building envelope. So that is a great spot, for mechanical systems. And if you're using ductless mini splits, then obviously those are inside, in conditioned space. So
Hey,
I feel like,
Rob, can I just ask a question about that? That's really important. But first, I want to insert a caveat about the HERS scores. When you get a report from the HERS scores, you're going to see something much like what you showed on the Housing Innovation Award summaries in terms of savings and so forth. And I want to make sure everyone knows they have to substantially discount that average monthly, the annual savings number, because the annual savings is calculated to the reference home, which is a 2006 IUCC home, which has nothing to do basically with the latest codes that average around 2012 and 2015. So you can cut those in half, almost, those savings. And make sure when you get a HERS report, you recognize the savings number is not compared to another new home built to the code, but this really, I don't know what to call what the reference home is. It's such a quagmire of a concept. But getting back to this attic space, do you make sure to condition that space? Because people need to know if you build that attic space, even though it may not be occupied, you have to manage a moisture load that tends to all by stack effect migrate up to that attic. So you provide supply and return up in that space, right?
Yeah, correct. So I think of it as semi-conditioned space, no different than I would think of a closed crawl space. So in our crawl spaces, we have a dedicated dehumidifier, as a drying mechanism in that space. So, you could probably do the same thing in a conditioned attic if you chose to, but in our case, in this 2-story, we actually have that ducted mini split in that area. So we can easily introduce a little bit of conditioned air into that space, to essentially temper it. We're not trying to keep it 72 degrees up there year round, but, because I'm an energy geek, I've got these little temperature and humidity sensors up there. I've got one in my attic and one in my crawl space. And anytime I'm, giving a lecture to my students at App State, they have to see, the app on my phone so they can appreciate this. But, over the course of the year, the temperature in my attic is usually within 3 or 4 degrees of the temperature on the second floor. So, it's pretty comfortable up there.
That's great.
But yeah, important point.
And this another important point I don't want to be missed before we jump into questions. And this one is like epic again. You need to look at these homes, and what you're seeing is a cementitious siding, not cheap, like vinyl siding. You're seeing quality trim details. You're seeing quality details in terms of how it's constructed and normal trim is used. This is so critical to me that we have to understand that what Rob is doing is not just packaging the absolute lowest cost solutions. He's integrating a holistic approach to quality, durable housing that will stand the test of time and still meet these amazing budgets. He's using SIP panels. And Rob, if you go back to the 2024 Housing Innovation Award winner home, what I want to let people know is we ran some detailed comparisons with a true cost tool from the Structural Insulated Panel Association. And this home has about $37,000 cost advantage compared to if it was built with conventional framing. And yet everyone will say, I can't afford to use SIP panels. It is transformative when you do a SIP optimized design. You will not have picked up from the floor plans he showed and the design. Everything about this design is optimized for how panels are made, configured, and assembled. So you get this tremendous cost optimized outcome. And it winds up at the SIP with all the additional volume for vaulted ceilings, for storage, in the attic space you wouldn't have with a conventional truss, with everything that happens in terms of less risk, more dimensional accuracy. The actual cost advantage to this home is about $37,000. And when you look at the total price of $200,000, this is, everyone should be paying attention to what Rob's doing. I hope everyone that's in the affordable housing space understands the importance of the lessons learned, and also with the community planning, creating connection and creating spaces where people can live outdoors and have just so many advantages that create wellness at every level. That's why this project is so important, and that's why it's being featured here. This is really amazing, I think, incredibly rare success, doing faster, better, cheaper. So there's a last from me. I just want to make sure we didn't lose these important aspects to this work that Rob is doing.
So I want to get to the many questions that are coming in, because I think people really are excited and interested in what you've got going on here, Rob. So real quick question from Richard. Are the Duke Street cottages solar ready?
They're all zero energy ready, certified, yes.
No, he was asking if they're solar ready though, and they are?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's sort of a, it's actually a checklist that's included in the Zero Energy Ready Home program. So just, quickly, we have to essentially say on the plans that we have sufficient roof space set aside for a future PV installation, that roof can structurally support the additional weight of that equipment. We have to run conduit from the attic to the panel location to make it easier for somebody to, to run that wire later. And then we also have to leave space in the panel for a future, PV system breaker.
Okay. So wanted to make sure to get to this one while I had both of you on here. Our friend Mike Barsick says hi to both of you, and
hey, Mike.
And Rob, he loves the mustache, but he's also very proud of your efforts, the design decisions that were made. But he does have a question. He wants to know if you've had any issues with moisture control, any need for supplemental dehumidification.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I've got temperature and relative humidity sensors in my house, as well as a couple of the others that have allowed me to install those. And yeah, I will say it has been ridiculously hot and humid just in the last month or so here in Western North Carolina. And we have seen some, higher relative humidities than I would like, in the 60s, let's say. And certainly we're trying to keep those as close to 50 as possible. So yeah, I do have the dehumidifiers in the crawl spaces, but I don't have supplemental dehumidification in the house. So it is absolutely something to, to pay attention to and think about, is there a need for a supplemental dehumidification strategy?
Okay. So want to get to a question from Gene. What EUI do you aim for to get to net zero energy ready?
Yeah, it's a great question. To be honest, I haven't given a lot of thought to energy use index, but it is something we talk about with our solar decathlon team at App State, but I've not really, gotten into that as far as this project goes. So I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Hey, can I just weigh in on that one is, when there's already a national metric that's used ubiquitously, the HERS scale, you might as well just ask what is the HERS number that generally equates to solar ready, or zero ready. And roughly that's, you can look at the zero energy ready home average HERS index score, which is roughly low 50s to high 40s. So that gives you a good indication of what score, at least in the case of a HERS number, is a zero ready number. And if you look at passive house, which is the ultimate efficient target you might go for, that's roughly in the high 30s, 40, high 30s, which is where Rob is getting to, by the way. So those, much below 35, it's really egregious efforts that are required to get there. After that, you really do require the solar. But the EUI is such a non-industry used metric. I would just stick with the HERS as your benchmark for what you need to achieve.
And I wanted to make sure to get out there to everyone too that we've had a couple questions come in, Rob, that are very focused on, well, okay, can we talk a little more about how the costs break down? And I've encouraged them to reach out to you. Your contact information will be shared in the post-webinar email that Green Builder Media sends out. So I've encouraged them to kind of follow up privately with you. So if anybody does have some more nuanced and detailed and in the weeds type questions, there will be a way to kind of engage with Rob one-on-one to get through some of those. But we did have a question come in from Kim, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but I want to make sure to get to everyone's question. Rob, I told you that it's what we do here. So Kim asks, how do you meet the small loads of bedrooms using mini split heat pumps?
I'm gonna have to ask for Kim's last name before I answer that question, because I'm afraid I know it. Yeah, it's a great question. So most manufacturers do not make a mini split small enough for a bedroom. So, Mitsubishi makes one of the smallest in the industry at 6,000 BTUs. And, most of these bedrooms probably have loads somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000 BTUs. So, can you responsibly put a mini split in a small bedroom? I mean, yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, probably not, quite frankly. So, at the end of the day, these units are probably oversized, but I guess we depend on the inverter compressor to be able to ramp down. But of course, the question becomes how low can you go? And we talk about how not just the maximum capacity, but what's the minimum capacity of these systems. And then you got to get into Mike's question about sensible versus latent. And yeah, we can control the temperature, but can we control the relative humidity? And often we're finding that we're not doing a very good job of that. So yeah, I think overall a ducted, small ducted mini split, those things typically start around 9,000 BTUs is probably a better choice for small houses like this, as long as you can find a way to keep those ducts inside the thermal and air boundary.
Wanted to get to a question from Peter. What efficiencies are you experiencing with homes built by module for your project, or did you just go stick build with that, or can you talk a little bit about that portion of your presentation?
Yeah, so we have not actually built one yet. We're just kind of in the design phase right now, but Module has been doing infill construction in and around Pittsburgh for a couple of years now. And one of the reasons I wanted to align myself with Module is because they set the same performance standard that I do, which is everything they build is built to the DOE Zero Energy Ready Home standard. So and I guess the other huge benefit to working with Module is that they understand how to leverage the factory relationship. And, you know, it's something that me as a small builder would, you know, would have a very difficult time doing, convincing a factory, you know, to build a few, you know, small houses for me to a much higher standard, you know, than code is a big ask. So, yeah, I guess we'll have to make that the topic of the webinar next year. We'll give you a performance update on that. But yeah, I see that as one of the challenges for our industry right now is, you know, transitioning to more and more offsite construction and, you know, achieving these higher levels of performance at the same time.
Real quick question from Coleman, who's very excited to hear about the upcoming Hickory Grove project. Is that going to be near or part of the Hickory Grove community outside of Charlotte?
No, but I know where that is. I used to live in Charlotte. No, this is near downtown Hickory, right around the corner from Lenore-Ryan College, or University as they call it now. And not too far from the new Appalachian State University Hickory campus.
Okay. All right. Here's a question for both of you. Coming in from Michael, not me, different guy. Many of the naysayers on SIPs are against it because of the environmental impact of the product. So can you share your opinion on that?
Ben, you want to go first on that one?
So Mike, repeat the question again. Naysayers on SIPs or what?
They're speaking out, the naysayers on SIPs speak out against it because of the environmental impact of the product. I'm guessing they're looking more at the.
Oh boy, you're going to open up Pandora's box with me. I think I'm going to go crazy if I watch our industry and also the advocates for climate responsive housing and for zero carbon housing start pushing too hard. We're in a political environment where anytime you start with climate responsive or climate change housing or zero carbon housing, you're offending half the country. And why can't we just embrace the amazing outcomes we're getting when we get homes to zero energy? And that house is going to sit there for 100 years, and that foam will sit solid in that wall. It's not going to budge. It's not going to have any vapor flow through it. It's going to be amazing performance. And by far the most egregious carbon factors in housing are driven by the concrete and the steel and some of the worst foams. But the foams are so far less than the steel and concrete. Let's put the steel and concrete out of the homes, and you have like a 50, 60+% solution when it comes to the environmentally responsive construction materials. Now, when we push so hard and we want to force our agenda on the rest of the country that's not with us, we are so at risk of losing the whole progress that we're making. These homes, the wellness they provide, are the answer. Half the country is being left behind on wellness, financial, health, education. They are just not experiencing what the rest of the country is, and it's growing the disparity. Let's just focus on making them well, living better. All of these desired outcomes we want for reducing embodied carbon, all those things will come along absolutely, because we have great answers and great solutions technologically that will lead to better products and better experiences. So why don't we just embrace the amazing outcomes we get when we use advanced innovation like SIPs homes and not worry about the foam and the panels. And that, I'll get off my soapbox, but that's where I am on it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my perspective is similar, but I mean, so we're trying to balance embodied carbon and operational carbon. So I will quickly admit, you know, that we're going to be high on the embodied carbon with these specific panels, primarily due to the closed cell spray foam in the core. But you know, hopefully we make up some of that on the operational carbon, you know, throughout the life cycle of this home. But I mean, you know, I'm not trying to discount. Would I prefer to get rid of spray foam in my houses? Yes. you know, if somebody's making a structural insulated panel with, you know, hemp sheathing and wool insulation, then I'm interested, you know. But I guess the other thing I'll say about I do prefer the fact that these panels are built off-site. So the spray foam is applied, you know, in a controlled environment of a factory versus being site applied. You know, so just in terms of the exposure to, you know, that process to, you know, folks on the construction site, but, you know, it's obviously a legitimate concern.
I was also going to add in Housing 2.0 alum, and our friend Mike Barsick wanted to just share that HFO as a blowing agent for closed cell spray foam is available. He feels it's a way better option from a carbon footprint standpoint, and he just used it on a project in Chattanooga, and it had no add-on cost component.
And that's to my point, is the solutions will come and they'll be there. But the more we sound like we're pushing too hard right now, the more we can create resistance and objections to such amazing achievements like what's happening in projects like this. So I just beg everyone, just relax a little bit. We'll get there. Mike is absolutely right about these advanced foams are just queued up, ready to innovate into the market space. We'll get there.
Another question that I'll pose to Rob, but Sam, you can chime in on this as well. When we're talking about the Zero Energy Ready Home program, Dwight wanted to know, can you satisfy the PV requirement through a PPA if the roof space isn't sufficient? For example, apartments with less roof space per unit.
Yeah, to be honest, Sam would have to address whether or not, you know, you could do off-site. But I mean, all you're really trying to do is get to zero ready, you know, where there's no current requirement, you know, to include on-site or off-site production. But I mean, you can just completely be exempted from the PV ready checklist if your site is not, you know, doesn't have sufficient, you know, roof space that would be conducive to a future solar install.
Yeah, that's right. Rob, there's been the exception that if you don't have the roof space, you don't have to meet the requirement. And to be honest, version 2 has just come out, and I have to check if we retained or didn't retain that exemption. So I would recommend everyone check the national program requirements for Zero Ready to see if the exemption is still in force. I hope it is, because, you know, we shouldn't care. We should be indifferent where people get their renewable power. If they get it from the utility grid and opt in for renewable power from utility, or offsets, or microgrids, we shouldn't be just militant that rooftop solar is the only solution. So I hope the program has maintained the exemption, but I don't know.
So here's another question. You know, I mentioned apartments in the last one. We're going to stick with that theme for just a moment. So David joined us, and he lives in a 15th floor studio apartment in New York City, and they're going to have to meet some electrification requirements in the coming years and other energy efficiency standards. So his question is, and he admits he's, you know, not an expert at this field at all. That's why he's here and asking questions. So we're glad he's with us. But his question is, if you have any idea how thermal energy technology, whether it's aero or geo, can be applied to residences of that kind of makeup, you know, a 15th floor studio apartment.
To be honest, I don't have any direct experience with that level of multifamily. Sam, you got any ideas there?
Yeah, again, there's so many issues that will drive me crazy, and this will be one. You know, as you recognize, in a high-rise apartment, 90+% of the units only have one of 6 surfaces exposed to the outdoor conditions. The rest are adiabatic surfaces. There's a unit above, a unit below, a unit either side, and a hallway. And so we got only one wall in an apartment out of 6 sides exposed to any kind of weather conditions. For me to push so hard on, on the other requirements, your space condition loads are not that important, and the electrification can be met by just with normal technologies they use in high-rise construction, because normally high-rises are built all electric. So unless, well, they can have a central gas heating, water heating, and so forth. But so again, for me, it's one of these issues where I'm just, how much do you go after? I'd say focus on the big prize.
In that setting, Sam and Rob, where does that line come in where you say, okay, maybe I own this apartment, but I don't own the building, and how can you make changes to, I'll say, the envelope? I mean, I don't know how much latitude you even have in that setting.
I recommend we don't get too deep into this one.
Yeah,
it's just one of these outliers, and it's a good question for the person who's living it, but it's kind of a rare topic, I think, for rank and file.
Yeah, it is a little unusual for sure, but here's what I will say. I think we can agree on this. He's not the only one that's going to have this issue in this building, right? Like, he's going to be part of a group that's going to be trying to figure out answers as well. So at least you're not alone on that, David. But thank you for attending and asking your question. Peter had a question for you. What range of home size, Rob, do you think is the perfect size for the cost, whether it be a square foot range or a number of bed, number of bathrooms? And then there is a follow-up question.
So yeah, tough one to answer. As you know from the slides, my range is 800 to 1400 square feet in this particular development. Most of the habitat houses I built, over that 15-year career were 1200 and change, typically 3.2s. And, I think I wanted to test the market with a 2-bedroom product and, see what the response would be. And, just as you look at the demographics, 1 and 2 person households are the fastest growing in our country. And, that's really my target market. It's first-time home buyers on one end of the spectrum and, retirees who want to downsize on the other end of the spectrum. So, and that's exactly who's buying these homes. We still have a teenager at home, so there's 3 of us in our house, but most of these are 1 and 2 person households. Some of them only have, 1 car. So, yeah, I don't know what the right range, is, but I think where we're headed is, we need more smaller housing opportunities, and not just apartments, but again, more diversity of housing types that are, more affordable because they are smaller.
Hey, could I ask a question, Rob? It's really important in most households to have storage for things like yard tools, for bikes, for house tools, for luggage. I can go on and on. That might not normally fit in homes. I know you have the attic storage capability, but even things like bikes and certain yard tools, what is the solution for your residents when it comes to that kind of storage?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier, but we're looking at building essentially a detached garage that would have multiple bays in it, that would essentially serve almost like self-storage, but they would be on site. So it wouldn't be attached to your house, but it would be, very close to your house. So yeah, as I think I did mention that we're struggling with bikes and boats. Where do you put that stuff?
Yeah,
So
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely critical, you know. I mean, we certainly want to encourage folks to get outside. I mean, that's part of the deal with uh, the Microlife Institute in Atlanta likes to say less house, more life. You know, I mean, you hear that in the tiny house world all the time. So I mean, you know, these aren't tiny, but they're small, and you know, we've got some outdoor living space, you know, with that covered front porch, but yeah, certainly we want to encourage people to have active lifestyles, and you know, having the ability to store those kinds of, you know, toys, you know, as some people refer to them, it's critical. So yeah, you got to think through it.
It's a great question, Sam, because that was the follow-up I had from Peter, was asking about shortage of storage and garage and parking and that sort of thing. So it was on his mind as well. I do want to put the call up there, final call for any questions. Rob, I had one for you. Well, actually two. Well, it was on, one is on this one we were just talking about. I may have missed it during the presentation. Are these slab on grade? Do these have crawl spaces? Do these have basements? Which one was it?
Yeah, so there's a mix. The first 5 had closed crawls, but the phase 2 were on raised stem wall slabs.
Or the switch?
Well, I mean, just the slope, you know, the grade is much flatter on the other side of the neighborhood where we're building phase 2. So, and you know, the one that you're looking at there on the screen is it's on a crawl space, but I mean, it is a code minimum crawl space, you know, so you are literally crawling in there, not crouching. So I was just in there changing a filter on a dehumidifier a few days ago, so I can tell you it gets harder and harder with age.
Something to consider for the empty nester models, right?
Absolutely.
The other question I had for you, Rob, was, you know, obviously different places have different codes. I was just curious on the 800 square foot model, that doesn't drop you into the tiny home code, does it? It's too big for that?
Yeah, I think that's under 400 square feet to be in that appendix for tiny homes.
Okay, okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure on that. We'll close with a compliment, Rob. Peter, who had asked the question earlier, commends you for living in your own development, and I think that's a very powerful statement. Honestly, you're building it, but you're living it, and that was certainly part of Rob's congressional testimony that he gave at a hearing. And if you're super bored and want to go back and watch that, that's great. But in all honesty, I did watch it, and you know, he did talk about it. I live in one of these, and so not just I'm the builder, I'm also the customer, and so I think that makes your presentation and your testimony really powerful, Rob. So thank you very much for being with us today. Sam, thanks for coming in with us too. Really appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. There's no other questions. But thank you much to our audience for asking all those great questions, for being so engaged with us. We really do appreciate you joining us. And thank you once again to our sponsors, Schneider Electric, Panasonic Healthy Indoor Living Solutions, Jinko Solar, and LG HVAC for their sponsorships. We very much appreciate them. And I think we did reach our goal of not reaching any kind of level of boredom here. I think people were very excited. So if you liked what you heard today, we fight boredom with Housing 2.0 as well, because this kind of insight and knowledge is something that you can get in the Housing 2.0 program. The Series 2 workshops, which are run by Sam, and you get to hear my voice every once in a while, start October 17th. That's a Thursday. For more information and to register, if you want to hang out with Sam and I, go to greenbuildermedia.com/housing-2.0. Our next Thought Leader webinar, which is just like this one, will be on Wednesday, August 14th at our usual start time of 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be talking about minimizing embodied carbon. Hey, we mentioned that earlier here today, with our good friend Gene Myers of Thrive Home Builders. I think somebody has heard of them before. Thanks again for attending, everyone, and I look forward to...
Michael, one more thing. We'll be with the Housing 2.0 workshop in Las Vegas on August 21st. So people should check out the Green Builder Media website if they're interested in that as well.
That's right. If you want to catch Sam live and in person on the Housing 2.0 World Tour, it is going to be in Vegas. So go to that website I just mentioned before, greenbuildermedia.com/housing-2.0, and you can find out more about that in-person event as well. So thanks, Sam. I appreciate you plugging that one. Well, again, thank you everyone for attending with us. Until we see you next time, when we fight more boredom with inspiring and captivating content, please stay safe, stay healthy, and take care, everyone. So long.